Keeper of the Lost Cities Neverseen, Chapter 17. Mr. Forkle sat alone with Della when Bianca and Sophie made their way down to breakfast. The tight line of his frown told them he'd already been given a thorough update. "I'll ask Sior to help Laura and Mitya," he said, handing them each a bowl of green porridge. "That's one of the gnomes we met on the first day, right?" Bianca asked. Mr. Forkle nodded. "This forest will miss him, but Calla feels confident she can cover his absence. And I think it's important to get answers quickly, don't you?" "I do," Keefe said, striding across the bridge with Dex and Fitz right behind him. "And I have a plan." "Do you now?" Mr. Forkle asked, studying Keefe closer. The bruise-like dark circles under Keefe's eyes made it clear he hadn't slept, but Sophie was much more concerned about the state of his hair. It hung flat against his head, completely unstyled. Mr. Forkle handed Keefe a bowl of green sludge, but Keefe set it aside and plopped into a chair. "I wish you would not punish your body over a troubled heart," Mr. Forkle told him. "Fine. How about I eat if you promise to hear me out?" Keefe asked. Mr. Forkle gave him a spoon. Keefe devoured his porridge in 3 giant bites, then wiped his lips and said, "I want to speak to Gethin. I know he's unresponsive, or whatever you call it, but his consciousness can't just disappear. I'm sure he can hear me, or more importantly, he can hear this." He cleared his throat and shifted several octaves higher as he said, "Gethin, it's time to go." Sophie cringed at how uncannily he sounded like his mother. "Your mimicking is very impressive," Mr. Forkle told him. Keefe sounded both bitter and sad as he said, "I was trained by the best. And now we can use what she taught me to fool Gethin. If I stage it right, I can make him think he's being rescued, which should draw his consciousness back. Then we can find out what he knows." "You're assuming he knows something worth all of that risk," Mr. Forkle said. "Why else would his capture get my mother—" He cleared his throat. "It has to be something important, and I can find out what it is. If he thinks he's being rescued, he'll come back. Then you can probe his memories." Mr. Forkle stroked his double chin. "Your plan does have its merits, Mr. Sensen, but it's still far too dangerous. We have already determined what our priorities are at the moment, though we are amending them to include an investigation of Laura and Mitch's findings." "That's not enough," Keefe snapped, pounding the table. "Keefe," Della tried. "No." His hand pulled away before she could take it. "Aren't you guys sick of being treated like they're little puppets? Go here. Read this. Wait for this. Eat this." He whacked his bowl, knocking it off the table and sending it spinning across the floor, spraying the remaining bits of his green porridge. "Keefe," Della tried again. "I know you're upset." "No. I'm just tired of being ignored," he interrupted. "This is a good plan. Dex and Fitz agree." Both boys shifted in their seats. It does seem like it might work," Fitz said after a second. "I never said it wouldn't." Mr. Forkle rose and placed his hand on Keefe's shoulder. "But we've been over this with your schemes about Exilium. Just because a plan is feasible does not mean it's worth the risk. I understand your desire to bring something positive from everything that's happening, but one should never rely on their enemies to give them hope." "I don't care about my mom." "Yes, you do. As you should. And while I cannot base this on evidence, I wouldn't count your mother out yet." Keefe snorted. "You say that like it's a good thing. Yay, she's alive, so she can keep being evil." "Evil is better than dead, Mr. Sensen. Evil can change, though neither is in your power." "Nothing's in my power. That's the problem." Mr. Forkle squeezed Keefe's shoulder tightly. "You are very important to our organization. You wouldn't be here if you weren't." "I mean it," he added when Keefe rolled his eyes. "You will play a crucial role when we rescue Prentice, and that is the mission we must remain our focus on." "Whatever." Keefe stood and stalked towards the boys' house. Sophie rose to follow, but Mr. Forkle stopped her. "Best to give him space. He'll come back when he's ready." Keefe didn't come down for dinner. At breakfast the next morning, he'd picked at his food and didn't say much of anything. By the 3rd day of one-word answers, Sophie was ready to stage an intervention. But Fitz and Biana reminded her how badly they handled themselves when Alden's mind had broke. "We were awful," Biana mumbled, "especially to you. And there was nothing anyone could say to make us act better. Alvar tried. Keefe even tried." "I'm still figuring out how to make it up to you," Fitz added. "No need," Sophie promised. Her heart made an extra leap when Fitz smiled and said, "I'll keep trying anyways." "Ugh, Keefe needs to get better," Dex mumbled. "I need someone to barf with me over Fitzfee." "My point," Biana said as Dex made gagging sounds, "is that as long as Keefe knows we're here, that's really all we can do." Sophie knew Biana was right. That didn't make waiting any easier, though. She found herself checking her window every night before bed, wishing she'd find Keefe standing at his. On the 5th night, his curtains were at least open a crack, unleashing a shred of light. She decided to take the tiny opening. She didn't have any rocks to throw, so she settled for her shoes, picking the wobbliest, most uncomfortable-looking heels. Nothing happened from the first thunk, but the second thunk did its job. "Are you throwing shoes at me?" Keefe asked, sliding open the window. "Seemed like a good idea. Now I don't have to wear them." He gave her a half smile, but it faded as he waved the air away from his face. "Wow, that's a lot of worry you're hurling at me. You kind of deserve it." Keefe mussed his still unstyled hair. "I'm guessing you still don't want to talk about it?" she asked. "Not really." She dragged out her sigh. "Is there anything I can do?" He started to shake his head, then stopped. "Actually, yeah." "What?" Sophie asked, leaning out her window. She didn't hear him the first time and had to make him repeat. "Promise you won't hate me," he whispered. "Why would I hate you?" "I don't know. Maybe you'll decide it wasn't worth sacrificing your shoes." Now, that's never going to happen. She'd hoped that might earn her smile, but Keefe wouldn't look at her. "I would never hate you, Keefe. Why would you even think that? I don't know. I guess it just feels like I don't belong here anymore." "You do. But I know how it feels to be an outsider. The one with the past. The one with the shaky future. You know what I've realized? Or what I'm trying to realize, at least. Is this the part where you give me some speech about how it's our choices that show us who we really are?" "Nah, that sounds like something the old guy would say." Finally, he gave her a real smile. "What I'm trying to realize is that it's okay to be different. If everyone were the same, we'd all make the same mistakes. Instead, we're all facing our own things. And that's not so bad because we have people who care about us to help us through. You have that, Keefe. We're all here for you, no matter what, okay?" Several seconds crawled by before he nodded. "You should go to bed," Keefe said, as a gust of wind made Sophie shiver in her furry pajamas. The suggestion was tempting. Olivatera was so much colder than Havenfield, but she was afraid the glints of progress she'd made would be snuffed out when she left Keefe alone. "I've got a better idea," she said, racing to her bed and grabbing Ella, her pillow, and the thickest quilt. She coiled the blankets around her and waddled back to the window like a fluffy burrito. "See? Window slumber party." Keefe laughed, and, after a slight hesitation, disappeared and returned with his own blanket and pillow. The floor felt hard and cold, the problems ahead of them unimaginable. But they weren't alone, and that made all the difference.